Welcome to the podcast. Today my guest is Wayne Yep. I first met Wayne a couple of years ago in Macau. I was living in an apartment with a mutual friend of ours, and he came by to visit. And as far as I remember, we didn't talk much that day because I was very sad because I lost so much money in Macau.
That's right.
But I got to know Wayne later, and he's a very smart and knowledgeable person. So I'm very happy to have him on the podcast today. For the people who don't know what Wayne is doing, he is or was a professional poker player, and he played the highest stakes in Macau. And the highest stakes in Macau are very, very high. There are millions of dollars at the table. And now he has a lot of new interesting projects outside of poker going on. So I'm very happy to have him on the podcast to share his journey, how he thinks, what he's doing right now. So welcome on the podcast, Wayne.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad to be here. Hi, Ike. So I'm Wayne, and like Ike mentioned, we met previously in Macau through our mutual friend, which is his name is Ryan. He was also my business partner for about a year when we were in the crypto space, investing in the space. So yeah, and then I was fortunate enough to go to Vienna one day, and me and Ike just had a chat, and we got along pretty well. So like, really excited to be on. I guess going to my background a little bit, I started playing poker around 2010, and then I kind of did poker in school at the same time. So I had my successes, I had my failures. And eventually, when I finished school, it kind of was pretty nice timing in the sense that PO Solver came out at that time, or rather of the GTO range builders and all the solvers came out at that time. So I managed to kind of, like, I was always quite a hardworking person because, in Singapore, we have to study a lot. And I took that into poker in the sense of like when I was going to school, I would just cut my classes so that I could study software and get good at poker. So like I built my bankroll throughout my school days, and then after a while I found that I'm playing the high stakes, the biggest in the world, because Macau games are pretty big, like you mentioned, and yeah, so that was kind of my journey in poker. I also decided to move on from poker mainly because poker wasn't meeting a lot of my needs, and it wasn't really making me happy. So I'm guessing that most of the listeners will be poker players to some extent, or they know you well, so they kind of know poker a little bit more. So like, poker at the end of the day is a zero-sum game, and what then that meant for me is that I felt like I wasn't creating actual value in the world, which kind of bothered me, kind of deep down. And I realized that if I moved on to other businesses and I do anything else in the world, I can choose to start over again. And I can choose to start on things that are in the value creation paradigm instead of the value extraction paradigm or the zero-sum game paradigm that poker is in. So that's what that was the main decision that drove me to leave poker. The second is probably that I was kind of at my ceiling in some ways. When you reach the biggest games in Macau and you're a live game player, there isn't that fun to play poker anymore. There isn't that much room to get significantly better. Your payoffs for working really hard in your game, you don't actually see yourself playing any bigger or any better, like relative to other players by much. So that was another factor that drove me to leave.
And I know you're not playing as much poker anymore. Do you miss going to Macau? Do you miss Macau?
That's a funny question, and I laugh because in some ways, yes, and I definitely do miss it because I spend a lot of time there. I have a lot of friends there, a lot of people that I consider my really, really good friends I made in Macau, and there's a lot of fun stuff going on sometimes at the table. Like when we play 24 or 30 or 40 hour sessions, people just go crazy. the kind of table banter gets pretty insane and crazy. It's fun. But that being said, I do not wish that I was back there doing what I was doing anymore.
Yeah, I compare it to being at a rock festival for like 3 days. Like during the time you're at the festival, like you're tired, you don't shower for 3 days, you feel terrible, but looking back, it's always fun.
Yeah.
So that's like kind of the analogy I have with Macau, because looking back, for example, for me, during the time it didn't feel like fun, but looking back, I had a lot of fun in Macau. So let's maybe start at the beginning. How did you get into contact with poker?
Oh yeah, so contact with poker. Wow. The first hand I played of poker was when I was 13, 2003. So my brother's good friend went to the US, and then like Chris Moneymaker won the World Series that year. So my brothers and his friends, they're both like 5 years older than me. So one day they decided to play a see and go, a $5 see and go. So we played 2 see and goes. I won the first one and chopped the second one. So I was crushing the 18-year-olds at 13, and I ran good obviously from the start, and yeah, that was my first contact with poker. But then that being said, I didn't continue to play poker at all until about 17 or 18 when I was in school. We would sometimes mahjong, which is another like strategy game where you use tiles. It's quite common in China, Hong Kong, Singapore, Chinese culture, and sometimes we would play both mahjong and then somebody would suggest poker, so we would play like 4 people, 5 people, and then kind of I got pretty hooked during that period because I found Doyle Brunson's Super Secret, and when I read that book, I was winning all of my friends. So I'm like, I can make money. Wow.
Yeah, it was. I don't. When I was playing with my friends and I downloaded Harrington and Hold'em 1, 2, 3, and you just take like kind of his concepts and you're kind of applying it and misapplying it, but you're like it's good enough to beat your friends and you feel like you're very good.
Yeah.
When you turned like when you got serious into poker, did you start with playing online or did you play in the casino in Singapore?
So when I started playing poker, there was no casino in Singapore that offered poker first. So like the story I told of playing poker with my friends, I was still in junior college, so that is before we go into the army. So after finishing my A-levels, which is the pre-university exam, me and my friends, we got hooked onto poker. We loved playing it a lot. So we had a group of about 6 to 12 people, and some people would play all the time, some people wouldn't. And I just played almost every day until I went into the army. So like it's just a home game. We're playing like 25 cents, 50 cents, or 50 cents, $1, Singapore dollars, which is smaller than the US dollars. And I think about 1 year into army, I started playing online as well because there were some Asian sites. I guess it's a little bit like it's actually like PokerStars kind of site, but there's not much traffic and it's just all Asians playing. So at that time, poker was still legal in Singapore, so I could play online then. And I got quite fortunate in the sense that I was much better than the player pool, so I made money pretty quickly. And that was the time when my family wasn't doing so well. So my parents' business didn't do well then. And when I actually made like 10K US dollars in 1 week, that really helped and supported I went from crying and feeling like, oh wow, my parents like lost all of their money. I don't know how I'm gonna get through like university and all of that kind of stuff, to like, oh wow, I have 10K now. If I make 10K in a week, I can make a lot of money. So I actually started working quite hard on the game. So like before I finished army, I made like over 100K US, which I kind of then went to Macau and I just took shots. Like I was like, oh, I'm the best player ever. I just go to Macau and play 300, 600. Uh, not much of a bankroll for 300, 600, but I thought it was enough. And yeah, it didn't work out so well. I probably lost like 80% of my bankroll. And
during one trip?
Yeah, during one trip. So, I mean, I stayed there for about 50 days, and that was like right after I finished army. So like, I kind of took a bit of time off. I went back to check out if the agent sites are still running, and then I was extremely fortunate because there was a big whale that was just only playing heads up, and there wasn't much traffic on the website, so it was quite easy to get to play with the whale. So what would happen would be that for about period of about 3 weeks, I built back like I won 100K plus from him playing about 510 US. And he would lose 2 or 3 buy-ins at a time and leave. So like, but he would play at any time during the day. So like, he had no patterns at all. So what I would do would be that I would literally take my laptop, I would open up the heads up table, I would sit there, and I would just have that on 24 hours a day. So when I go to sleep, I would max the volume to the full. And when somebody sat down, I would wake up and check if it's him. Usually it's him. Yeah, and when it's not him, I just kind of leave and sit at a new table. The rig was really high, so racks pretty much can't play with each other. And yeah, so that's how I kind of came back. And then I went to uni. Was pretty fortunate in my first Macau trips. I made some pretty close friends in Macau. So I know Louis and Chris and some Swedish guys. I knew them through mutual friends, and they were playing higher games than me, and we were always discussing strategy. Like they were somehow taking really good care of me, helping me with my game, because I was like the math guy. Like they didn't use any software or programs at all, but I would crunch some numbers. So like in a way, I was value adding to them, even though my knowledge of poker was less than them because I knew how to use some of these softwares. So
back what years? So at that time, Pure Solver's already around?
No. That time it was Piranha's EV and what's the other one from Poker Strategy? Like
Equilab.
Yeah. Just understanding how much to different pre-flop and stuff, like things that live poker players don't think about.
Yeah, they have more like a gut feeling. That's oftentimes also correct, but yeah, sometimes their numbers are a little bit off from what the computer says. So
yeah,
do you feel that was the in Macau it's funny because there, especially for example as a European, there are not many Europeans. So all the Europeans or like English speaking people, they're all playing poker. So it's like kind of the friends you can make are also your competitors, let's say.
Yeah.
So do you think, what was the reason that you like made these good friends like in Macau? Because for me, when I was there, it was not so. I was hanging out with Ryan, and it was not so easy for me to make friends, for example.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I wouldn't necessarily point it at one single thing, but I guess the main thing with how I got close to Chris in particular and his brother Alex because they came to Singapore a lot. They like coming to travel to Singapore. So like we would hang out in Singapore and then we would go and party, and then we would go for some tournaments and some trips together. Then we were quite interested in a lot of the same things like learning, reading and becoming a better, like improving your life kind of thing. So we had a lot of topics outside of poker to discuss. Plus, we were also playing different stakes. So they were playing, Chris was playing a lot higher than me. So yeah, we weren't really competitors on any front, so it was just kind of
Okay.
like that.
So you were moving up the stakes. Like, how did that work out? How did you talk a lot to the other poker players that were playing these games? How did you get better during that time?
Well, I I was talking to them, and I was always discussing hands, and I would always ask players that are better than me about how to play hands and about what the mistakes they think I'm making. Um, they were saying a lot of things that didn't make sense to me sometimes, but like I thought I got it, or I thought that they were wrong, and I was a bit stuck in my own ways in many ways, which was why um, I was playing the 50, 100 and the 100, 200 levels for all my uni years, mainly because I wasn't playing that many hours a year. Like I was doing school full time, so I would only go to Macau whenever I skip school or when I have holidays. So I didn't manage to jump out in stakes like really really jump out in stakes, because like 50, 100, 100, 200 is kind of the stakes that I always played in Macau. Kind of when I went there, that was why I started playing already. And then after uni, or towards the end of uni, when I started moving out in stakes, that was when software came out, and I started putting a lot of time into software. I also actually spent a lot of time watching videos, and that was how I actually beat the online games earlier on, like watching users track videos and cut runners. I'm not sure if you heard this story before, but like when I was in the army, I was so desperate to get better at poker that I would sneak an iPod Touch out to the jungle, and I would watch the videos and listen to poker content while kind of out in the jungle. And um, because like I couldn't afford it, I was paid like 300 US a month from the army. I had to download, like I had to pay for 1 month, download the whole bunch, and then watch it all. So,
Did you get
yeah, it was a lot of. Huh?
Did you get some? So for how is the army in Singapore? Is it 1 year you have to stay?
It's 2 years.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's quite brutal. Um, like apart from that, I also got better in poker by taking quite a lot of coaching. So I can't even remember who I got coaching from, but I would just go to like 2+2 and find like random coaches and try to learn from them a little bit. Then I started getting mental game coaching from Jared Tendler first, then later Elliot Rowe, which I know that you know him as well. Yeah, that truly helped my game. But like improving in poker is one thing, right? Like becoming better at poker, I don't think it's that complex. There's a very set strategy. Like, oh, you do this, you do that, then you get better. Like it's clear. Like you can optimize your poker journey to to the point where you can become quite a good regular in like a 100, 200, 300, 600 game in Macau. I think what made me actually go up one more level to play like 1K, 2K and the private games is not so much about poker skills anymore. It's really about understanding how people actually think, um, understanding which are the tight guys that, if a bot comes like 7, 8, 9 rainbow or flush draw, they open in early position, they never ever get to showdown because they just never have anything good there. And they never ever call down with their aces, so like to kind of take advantage of these situations. Then there's also the other part about soft skills, like how do you get into games, networking. I went for a significant number of courses, live and online, to learn how to improve my people skills in general.
Yeah, that's when we met in Vienna. You were telling me this, and this is like something that kind of stuck with me, that I kept in my mind. That because you told me at one point you realized the soft skills are way more important in poker than like the actual the game skill, I would say.
Yeah, from a strictly money making perspective, definitely. Also, on top of that, when you actually work on all of these other skills, right, they actually give you value in your life, and it gives you value in future if you want to move away from poker. And I did want to move away from poker at some point. So I realized it's just so much more resilient of a strategy.
So for the listeners at home, can you paint a picture how the poker games in Macau are running? Because it might be a little bit different than the listeners imagine. Like in Macau, you play long hours. You wait for the important persons to come. Can you paint? Can you tell a little bit like how these sessions look like?
From 300, 600 Hong Kong onwards. So 300, 600 Hong Kong, you have one VIP seat, and this is at the Wynn, the most popular casino in Macau. There's one in Vegas as well. And in 1K, 2K, we have 2 VIP seats at the table. So what these VIP seats are, right, are that the supervisor or the poker room staff get to allow certain players to sit in that seats. So those seats are called VIP seats. They are reserved for players who are like relatively bad players, like punters. And sometimes, of course, the staff gets it wrong, but generally speaking, the staff and the players have a good conversation going. So like we discuss which players are allowed to take those seats. So what the dynamic that this creates is that regulars have an incentive to play at the table, hoping that the VIP will come. So this starts from 300, 600. But like at the 1K, 2K game, there's a very interesting dynamic that comes up. Mainly because there is specifically one guy, sometimes it's a few guys, but like this one guy, and he's actually my godfather. He calls me son. He would come to Macau for a month or so, and he would come and play like every day. He could play for like 60 days in a row. And every time he plays at the table, he loses like a few buy-ins on average. So because everybody wants to be at the table waiting for him to come and sit at the table to play, right? The table never really breaks. So what happens is that there will be a second table called the must-move table. It's kind of like a reserve table. 8 professionals playing at the first table waiting for that one guy. The second table comes up and people have to play there because a lot of people put their name on the list for the first table. And when there's enough players on the list, they start the second table, the must-move table. So then there will be a list for the must-move table as well. So what happens is that you start playing at this table, the VIP comes, you play till the VIP leave, this whole table leaves, the second table will take over. And because they were already playing at the must-move table for about 10 to 12 hours or so before they get moved to the main game, right? And this is because the game starts early, because the poker room wants to make money. So, and like when the VIP leaves, usually the whole crew from one table moves to the other table, and that becomes after 12 hours, you have to play for another like 8 to 12 hours to wait for the VIP to come. So 20 plus hours in, usually you get the VIP coming to your table, and then you play with him for 8 to 10 hours. So we ended up doing a lot of 24 to 30 hour sessions, and some people even do the double. Like it's even a thing in Macau, it's called the double. And the double is that when the VIP leaves, you don't leave, you wait for the next day and play the next session. So you play another 24 hours more, because the second 24 hours, you don't have to go through the first like 10 to 12 hours. So it's a slightly shorter step. So you can actually do the double, especially when there are 2 VIPs in town. So if that one VIP comes every day and there's some other VIP that has a high chance of coming, it's pretty lucrative to be doing that. So your hourly rate goes up a lot and you feel like absolute shit, but the money is good.
The money is worth it. And just for people to understand, so it's like a table in Macau has 10 seats, and the big game, 2 seats of this 10 seats are reserved for the VIPs. So you have 8 seats at the table, and there are like 20, 30, 40 guys who want to play with the VIPs. So once the first table is running, a second table starts, and once the first table breaks, like the VIP leaves and the guys already played 24 hours, they go to bed. And the guys from the must move, they come to the main table and they keep playing to have their seat locked, and they keep playing again for 12 hours to play a session with the VIP. So you play like 24, 36, 48-hour sessions. And yes, it's I don't know, it's fun and it's not fun.
Do you do many of those sessions yourself?
No, I did, because when I went to Macau, I played the big game in Macau was the 300, 600 at that time. So I did like the long sessions maybe two or three times, but I lost already so much money at the 100, 200 game. It was kind of a mix of running bad and calling rivers against tight players. So I didn't play that much of the long sessions. Yeah, but yeah, I did it 2 or 3 times. And I saw some people do the double.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Like you're really literally trading your health for money, and it's not worth it.
Yes. What did you do to recharge, or what do you do to recharge after these long sessions?
Well, so what happens during the long sessions, right, is that at the end of the long session, after playing for 24 or 30 hours, I go back to bed. I feel so fucking tired. I swear to myself that I will never do this again. And then I sleep for like 10 hours. And when I wake up, I feel my body just like crawling to the poker room. Like I have to go there and put my name on the list. Like I have to do it. I feel so shackled by the desire to want to be there, because like it's like really good money and you're tired, but yeah, you just go down to the poker room and put your name on the list. And then when you get the seat, you're like, I guess I'm playing. I don't have anything else better to do. Then you go and play. And during the play, there are actually breaks in the game, because it's so there are 8 players at the table, right? And when there are 8 players at the table, one person can go on a 1-hour break at any point of time. So everybody takes turns to go on this 1-hour break. So the break is very, very precious, because when you're really tired, these breaks are worth a lot. In this 24 hours, usually it's about 20 hours of waiting or so. In these 20 hours, you can average go on 2 breaks. So when we have our breaks, we would usually go back and sleep. So we will run out of the casino across the street, go home, sometimes take a shower, sometimes not, but take a 20 minutes nap, and then kind of like power nap, get up, and then you're super tired, because sometimes you're like up for, it's kind of nighttime, or like there's no real nighttime. It's kind of the days are all combined into one. And then when you wake up from your naps, you just crawl to the casino, because you don't want to lose your seat. You've already played for 15 hours. You can't lose your seat now. And then it kind of becomes part of your subconscious, where every time I woke up in Macau, I just felt stressed and that I needed to go to the casino.
Yeah, because the games, they are played in the Wilken casino, and all the poker players, they have an apartment in the what's the apartment complex called on the other side of the street?
One Central.
One Central. So every poker player rents a room in One Central. So they just go on the other side of the street. They sleep. Or the other thing is, if you put your name on the list, you get a text message, and then I think you have 20 minutes time to go downstairs and take your seat. So usually you're asleep, you get like the text message, okay, you have to get ready within like 15 minutes, go downstairs, take the seat. So that's one part of the Macau life. One thing I would be interested in is, you seem like a guy who could deal very good with the swings and with bad sessions. What's your mindset in that part of the game?
Well, I didn't start out that way. I guess I handle downswings pretty well now. But when I first started out, I was really, really out of control and tilt when I first started playing. I would lose sessions, and I would just, I couldn't stop thinking about it, I would play really badly when I lose, and I was not at all good at handling the downswings. It changed a little bit at a point when I realized that, hey, it became more integrated in my life, that I realized that, hey, every bad thing that happens in my life is something that it's just another event. I don't have to be attached to the emotion of, or I don't have, my emotions doesn't have to be attached to the event that happened. So what happened was that when I was quarreling with my girlfriend at that time and stuff, I would see this, oh, this is an opportunity for me to train my tilt control. And I was so obsessed with poker that I made everything in my life about poker. It was about maintaining my tilt control and bettering myself in poker through other things in life. So what happened then is that I became pretty emotionally close. I couldn't open myself up to people. A lot of times, like every girl that I dated at that time, I would not be able to open up emotionally to them because I was just kind of like, I thought that to be good at poker, you had to be a robot and had no emotions. So going through that journey really allowed me to tap into a very like kind of stoic state of being unemotional about things. Later on, I realized that it's possible to have both, to kind of utilize your emotions for you instead of against you. But before you reach that stage, you kind of have to really learn how to manage the emotions first. So that's what I did to manage my emotions. I spent a lot of time working with Elliot, with Jared. But actually, when I worked with them, it was more about playing my A game rather than working on my C game. I never really had too much of a problem with my C game. The work that I did for that would be reading books on Stoic philosophy, like Seneca, Marcus Aurelius. Ryan Holiday is a recent writer that writes a lot of Stoic content that's good. And also, I think the book from Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, that book really changed my mind quite a fair bit about handling my emotions and handling downswings. Like this guy, if you don't know the story, this guy is an Auschwitz survivor. Maybe you know, you're from Germany.
I've read the book.
And yeah, and just like how he handles like bad events and realizing like how he needed to separate himself and find meaning in his life that's separate from negative events really stuck to me, and that made me a lot better at handling downswings.
Yeah, I can definitely recommend the Viktor Frankl book and also the Stoic books, Mark Aurel, Seneca, I think Epictet or Epictetus, he's called.
Yeah.
Ryan Holiday is like kind of like, he's new. He is an author in our age, and he sums up like the old books. So if someone is looking for book recommendations, these are definitely good books. So just to make people clear, so these games Wayne was playing for like 36, 48 hours, they're always 100. You have like over $100,000 US in front of you. So it's like a lot of, every decision is a lot of pressure, and it's hard to not beat yourself up if you make mistakes. So the mindset part in poker is very, very important. Do you remember what your biggest downswing was in Macau?
Well,
if you want to tell.
To be honest, it's not that big because when the VIPs are around, we all have above 100K US dollars on the table. But oftentimes when it's all racks, right, the minimum buy-in is 200K, which is like 30K US. So like, you know, I'll be sitting with 30K US while the VIPs are not there, because I mean, there's, even if you have an edge, like it's not worth the mental energy focusing on battling the pros when all the money is coming from VIP and you're playing like 30 hours every day. So I mean, my biggest session that I lost was about 400K US. So I guess my biggest downswing is probably like 700K US. Like it's not that big.
Compared to the stakes.
Yeah.
So what made you you're now doing a lot of new projects and very interesting projects. What made you dial back on poker and dive into learning a lot of new things?
Okay, so this part is a very long story. First and foremost, I've always spent a lot of time learning, and I've always enjoyed learning and becoming a better person. So during poker days, meditation and stuff was always important to me. But like when you move on from poker, right, there's always like I was making pretty good money in poker. I would experience a significant dollar value. My earning power would drop as I move out of poker, and the thing that actually made me move out of poker was thinking that I could make a lot of money in crypto as well. Because at that time, it felt like a no-brainer for me because crypto was on a massive bull run. I was making a lot of money in crypto. I was more interested in crypto than in poker. So I spent a lot of my time reading up on crypto, on trying to understand crypto at a deeper level, on trying to make money in the crypto space. I spent a lot of time researching ICO projects. Like my company, we looked at, I think it's over 1,000 different ICO projects. Yeah, it was like at that time I wasn't very mature with my decision making. I think even though it's only a year or so ago, I really was a bit short-sighted with the fact that hey, I like crypto more than poker. I could make more. My ceiling in crypto is probably higher than in poker. I would live to go to crypto space. But since being in crypto space for over a year, I've discovered that there are a lot of people that are much smarter than me in the crypto space from a very technical perspective. I also realized that, hey, I like crypto, but my interest level is, I would say it's a 6 or 7 out of 10. And many people in the space are 10 out of 10. So if I wanted to compete with them and be at the top of the crypto space, it would require me a lot more effort than it did in poker. Because poker, I was really a 10 out of 10 when I started. I loved it. So at the end of the day, I lost significant amount of money in crypto, and I decided to move on from crypto. I was very lost for quite a few months last year, thinking like, hey, should I stay in the crypto space? Should I go back to poker? What should I do with my life? And then I went for Brandon Bush's Experts Academy, and I went for Scott's Engage from Your Stage. So I think you had Elliot and Nick Howard on the show. They both went for Scott's Engage from Your Stage as well. It's a speaker's training. And yeah, it's definitely good, and I highly recommend it. So I went for those two events, and I realized that, hey, I truly enjoy coaching and teaching people things. So I decided, hey, I'm going to start I'm going to start creating a course. I'm going to create an online course. And Brandon Bouchard gave us 45 days to create the first course, like to start selling your course. So I'm like, I guess if I think of my steps, right, I want to do poker first because I have so much knowledge in poker. It's easy to talk about a lot of topics that I don't need to spend time researching and preparing content. And my poker abilities, so like I had some audience to sell the courses to. But like in the last few months, I realized that one poker course is more than enough. I had a lot of the training that I needed and that I wanted. What I really want to do is entrepreneurship coaching, business coaching, masterminds. So I started exploring a lot of these things, and sometime like towards the second half of last year, I decided to join Tony Robbins Platinum Partnership. So if you don't know what that is, it's an 85K US program, and you get to go for 3 platinum trips a year, which you have to pay an extra 10K, and then you get to attend all of Tony Robbins events. So like I started going for a lot of events and seminars and just improving myself and learning about why I am the way I am, why I think the way I think, why my value system serves me and why it doesn't serve me, like how that helped me to get to where I am today, but how that also hinders me from jumping to the next level. why I feel unhappy a lot, like my rules of why I feel happy and unhappy. So like when I started diving deeper into these things, and then I looked at my bookshelf, I also did this book called Unique Ability by Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach, which is kind of like an exercise of you doing a lot of personality tests, kind of like Kobe personality profile. I did the DISC, I did the Strengths Finder, and then I asked a whole bunch of my friends about what they think my unique strengths are. I look at my bookshelf and I realized, hey, I just love the personal development space, and after studying this all the time, I know like a lot about this space. So yeah, I'm here now. I decided to pursue the personal development space. There's so many topics that I can talk about. So my biggest problem right now is finding my footing on how to market myself, because I can't be an expert in everything, and I don't claim to be an expert at everything. So like I need to zoom in right now and find out what really fascinates me. And at the moment, I definitely think that the setting I enjoy myself most in is in the masterminds. So for those that are not familiar with masterminds are like a lot of coaching groups now. The highest end program is a mastermind. They are usually between 10 and 100 people. I find that the smaller group settings, like 10 to 20 people, work the best. And it's kind of like oftentimes when I have a conversation with you, we both become smarter in that conversation because we have access to each other's brains, and we can combine ideas to form like a third mind called the mastermind. It's a concept that is popularized by Napoleon Hill. And I realized that I just love having these conversations. Like I could do this kind of podcast and talk to you and talk to interesting people all day. So this is what I realized my unique ability or my zone of genius is or was. And therefore, it makes a lot of sense for me to just work on things that I'm truly fascinated and motivated by. And I mean, of course, like I'm cognizant of the ceiling and financial of the amount of money I can make in these things as well, and it is quite high. But mainly because it fits all of my buckets. It makes money. It improves me as a person. It improves my connection with other human beings. And yeah, it's an amazing journey. I'm really loving it at the moment.
Yes, one thing so I have Wayne is my Facebook friend, and Wayne is doing a lot of Facebook live videos. And one thing I see with your videos that you, I would say you have a pure intention of helping people. Because when I look about getting a coach, one thing with you, for example, I know you made a lot of money playing poker. So you're not doing, your main purpose is not to make a lot of money. Like it's not to make, if you would do other things, you would make more money now. So sometimes what happens with coaches is they kind of like, they suck at their craft and they have to do like, they become a coach. So the feeling I have with you, you have like a very pure intention of really helping people. And what I like, you like really putting out this Facebook videos, like just every day, 5-minute videos, 10-minute videos, just trying to get better at what you do. And I think you actually got very good at, like, you have like the headlines, here's the, it's like, this is the one thing to get better. So I'm like scrolling through Facebook, I see your video and I'm like, oh, I want to click on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an open loop in the marketing community, right? Like, it's very hard for people to not want to watch that video. So like, and like I'm there to truly deliver value, so I don't feel bad about making people want to watch that thing. And the reason I'm doing so much video content is because I think it's a very valuable skill. If if you haven't heard, Google did a study that in 2022, 80% of content consumed will be video. So becoming a lot better in video is going to be one of the most essential skills for marketing any brand. And as I see technology advancing, brands are going to be even more important than it is right now. yeah, I think your happiness or the amount of good or the amount of contribution you can do to the world will be quite closely tied to how much of a brand you can have. And video is a big thing for that. So yeah, I'm putting in the hours.
So maybe tell people where can where can they find your stuff? Where can they watch you? I know
Yeah,
you have a podcast. You do a lot of Facebook.
yeah. So my Facebook is Wayne Yap Official. That's the kind of public Facebook page that I have. Um, I'd say that if you want to find me, I'm probably more active on my Facebook groups. So I have two groups. One is a poker group, which is Jumpsticks Poker, and the other group is Jumpsticks Live. So I'm pretty active there. I post a lot of content, and right now I have a meditation challenge. I'm not sure when this podcast released, but that might be over by then. But I plan to have a monthly challenge of like one thing that can improve people's lives, and then on Instagram, I'm Wayne Jumpsticks. On my website is jumpsticks.com. So yeah, those are the best ways to find me.
And it's not only for poker players, so even people who don't play poker will get value from that.
Yeah, it's mainly targeted at non-poker players. My podcast is a bit of a bridge between poker and the business world. So my podcast, I just launched it recently. It's from high stakes poker to ... And it's like, so like, for example, the first guest he's a professional fantasy sports player, daily fantasy sports. So talk about how he went from poker to daily fantasy sports, what skill sets are transferable, what skill sets are not transferable, what did he wish he knew before he made that jump. All of my other content, mainly right now, I'd say that 80 to 90% are not for poker players. But my thinking is very developed by poker, right? Where I think a lot in terms of EV, in terms of strategy, game theory, and so there is some poker touch to all of the live content that I have.
And one thing I wanted, maybe I want to that you share it, because I saw that you do a lot of these 30-day challenges where you learn a new skill, and there's some like crazy stuff like singing and learning Spanish for 30 days. Can you tell some what kind of 30-day challenges did you have already? What did you learn?
Yeah, so I tried it for 4 months and I gave up. At that time, I was still playing poker, and it was a bit of a... I think how the human mind works in general is that we are very biased to the short term. So I was unable to overcome that in the sense of like, as I was producing that content for the first 90 days, there was no real reward per se. Like, there was no following. I was not making any money from it. I was spending money from it. And it's very hard to sustain a mission and a project for longer than 90 days if you don't get the right incentives for it. So right now, as I move on to other projects, like, I'm sharing and I'm creating a lot of value for others as well. But I have a target to at least increase my social media following or to make money from it within a period of 90 days, just so that it motivates me to sustain the message and the mission.
So maybe as a last question, and it's maybe a hard or very broad question. I know you learn a lot and you went a lot to the seminars. What was maybe the one important thing that you learned over the last year that you maybe want to share with the listeners?
It's difficult because I learned so many that it's hard to choose one. So I'm cheat and give two. The first two that come to mind, like I can't decide which is more important. The first is that there is kind of like a primary question in my head, in our heads all the time. So a question that we ask ourselves in our head all the time. When you dig deeper and deeper into the real question that you're actually asking yourself all the time, that drives a lot of your decision-making ability. My question was, am I good enough? And this sense of like understanding that I was actually asking myself that question all the time. Like it's a like, you know, I go between am I good enough or am I worthy? And one useful thing that I did was to do a lot of affirmations and incantations to change my primary question. So instead of asking myself all the time, which is the natural thing that when you are, I guess, like, you can say unconditioned, but I guess I'm still conditioned by my environment. I actually changed it to become, how can I be even more worthy so that I can love and serve others even more? So when I changed my primary question from am I worthy enough to how can I be even more worthy? It kind of, there's the presupposition that I'm already worthy there. And as I kind of drew this in, like, I do my affirmations. So as I do exercises, like in morning I do like pumping exercise, breathing exercise. I kind of think of these things and affirm myself like of these things, and that really increased my happiness level in life a little bit. So that's the first one. The second one is I was speaking a little bit about the values and the rules that I have. So I realized that there are rules, there are values that you naturally are inclined towards, and values that you go away from. My away from values were, and my towards values were very difficult for me to feel happy, mainly because I was chasing things like success, and what success mean to me. And success means to me like, oh, I'm better than everyone else in the world. I have billions of dollars. I set this kind of like really hard rules for me to feel that value. So like instead, like, you know, like I can change it up a little bit and change my rules so that it's easier for me to feel like I'm hitting that value. Like, you know, like it's not success anymore, but if it was success still, right, as my number one, then it would be that instead of saying, oh, I need $1 billion, like, oh, just like I feel successful when I provide value for someone today, because that is something that can make me feel successful as well. So changing these rules in my head of how to feel happy was quite a big game changer for me in the last 6 months or so.
Yeah, that's also something that you can control. Like sometimes you put like this rules of happiness on something that you can't control, like having $1 billion. Like even if you make $1 billion, maybe a economic crash happens and you lose it again, and then you're unhappy. So yeah, it's like put these rules or like these values on something that you can control. I would give this an advice to the listeners.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share, Wayne, before we wrap it up?
Well, I guess I would like to share a little bit more of like what you just said, and kind of expand on that a little bit. That a lot of when we play poker, we understand that a lot of things are kind of, you can't be results oriented. You can only control the process. When it comes to life, there are two different schools of thought. Some people think that, oh, only the result is important, but like as poker players, like like I think that the process and making yourself feel happy because of the process is a very essential skill, because that is truly what gives me much more happiness than chasing an outcome. So I'm chasing a quality process instead of chasing a quality outcome now.
Okay, Wayne, let's wrap it up. With that, I think I got a lot of value from it. It was, as always. The funny thing is I haven't met you that often, but it kind of feels like I know you already very well. So it's always fun talking to you, Wayne.
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely enjoyed it. Thanks for having me, Ike.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for all the guys who listened to it. And yeah, hear you soon. Goodbye.